Today's webinar, we're going to be talking about our Stratum connectors, and we have two of them for Excel and Power BI. So let's talk about that and what these things do. So this is basically what we're going to cover today. My name's Adam Kurtz, and I'm with Sylvan Software, and we'll be talking about the Stratum Data Hub and how this relates to using Power BI, Microsoft's powerful visualization tool, how we can connect that to Stratum and take advantage of some of the data within Stratum. We'll also look at using Excel in the same manner and connecting to Stratum and dumping data directly into Excel, as opposed to, using building views and copying and pasting data into Excel manually. We now have connectors that you can connect directly into Excel and Power BI and pull data directly from Stratum. So that's basically what we're talking about. We'll look at a demo and take any questions you might have. The Stratum Data Hub is basically a modern data hub that allows you to store your data within Stratum from different systems. You might have data coming from ERP, point of sale, CRM. You also have options down the bottom left quadrant here to add data yourself from spreadsheets and Excel. The right side of the data hub allows different ways of accessing the data that once you've loaded into Stratum. Today, we'll be looking at the Access Hub. Obviously, part of the Access Hub are those connectors, the Excel connector or add-in, and the Power BI connector itself. So those are basically on the visualization side of things. So we'll be concentrating on this area of the data hub today. But as you can see, different ways to build dashboards. We've also got our owner interface, and obviously there's many different ways you can get data out of the Stratum Data Hub, including emailing reports, etc. If you're not familiar with Power BI, it's a Microsoft product. It's pretty easy to use for building reports. It is quite sophisticated, but it does lend itself nicely to ease of use, in my opinion. And then the learning curve, you can obviously climb that curve on your own pace. It is pretty cost effective. There's a free version that you can kind of take advantage of. You can download from Microsoft the free version and play around with that. Fully blown licensed versions allow you to, collaborate the reports, upload them to a collaborative cloud area that where other users can take advantage of, etc. So something you might look into if you're not currently taking advantage of Microsoft's Power BI. But if you already, this is really why we created it, is for companies that are already using Power BI and are already familiar with it. And as you can see, it provides these different areas of benefits for your organization. And of course, if you can't build it within Stratum, certainly you might be able to build it in Power BI. So if you need something custom from Stratum, this might be the way to go. The connector would sit right on top of the desktop version. So your designers out there would have a connector out there that they would load into their desktop designer of Power BI. That in turn allows them to connect to the Stratum Viewer product. They would need to provide the URL to Stratum Viewer, and that would allow them to connect to the views that are available within Stratum, and hence, download the data from those views into the Power BI connector, and using those views as data sets within the connector itself. At that point, then they can design the reports as needed. This is what that screen looks like. As you can see, it comes up with all the different views that are available within Stratum. As you can see, I've given my URL there, and it connected and allows me to select, in this case, a comparative sales view. And it gives you a nice little preview of the data within the pane in which you connect to. And, the preview allows you to confirm, that's the data that you're looking for. That's the view that you want. And then obviously then you can go ahead and bring that view into the designer and use that as a data source. We'll take a look at that. Obviously this is the piece that we'll look at here. Once we connect it to the view, it then becomes all the columns within the view become fields within your designer. It then allows you to build visualizations within your Power BI interface And you can then start building visualizations off of these different fields that are within your Stratum views. Um, Again, not having to go into a view or directly go into Stratum, you can basically connect directly to Stratum and start building these visualizations rather quickly. Excel, similarly, you can use Excel in the same manner. So in this case, you would have an add-in that you would load in from the Microsoft Store directly in Excel. You can get the through the add-in menu. It'll allow you to load in the Excel connector, as long as you're licensed for it, obviously, and you will then be able to connect to, in the same vein as we do in Power BI, we would provide the URL to connect to Stratum and then get access to the views within Stratum. We all know some of the benefits within Excel, similarly to Power BI, very cost effective. Obviously, many companies use it, so we don't see Excel going anywhere. A nice thing, a cool thing that comes with it is Excel shares a semantic layer with Stratum and Power BI. So there's this interesting layer of integration that happens that kind of comes along with the ride here. So it's rather nice. And Excel's really done a nice job of updating their analysis features and some of the visualizations that they've added as well. So we're going to take a look at both of these connectors. We're going to, as you can see there, is some of the Excel things that you can do. Heat maps, bar codes or bar charts, pivot tables, as you can see, all within one, spreadsheet. The Excel file would automatically, once you open the file, it would refresh the data for you. There's a setting actually you can toggle on and off. If you don't want it to automatically refresh, you can turn that off. We'll take a look at some of those settings here in a second. That's me. That's my email or phone number. If you want to chat, give me a call. Gosh, that never happens these days in terms of after COVID. I'd be glad to talk to anybody. So give me a shout, email me if you have any questions. We're going to take some questions if you do have some questions later on after the demo. Feel free to chime in. Other URLs there, as you can see, our website, customernet.sylvan.com, is where you can get more information about these features. You can just contact me at the end of the day, and I'd be glad to help you find the information that you're looking for. Okay, so basically, let's take a look at the Excel add-in. So we've got an example here where I've got an Excel file, and I've got obviously some visualizations here that are built in already. Where did I get that data for these visualizations? I got it from my connector. As you can see, once you add in your Stratum connector for Excel, you'll have a Stratum menu that would populate within your Excel workbook. So once you click on Stratum there, you're going to have a nice little Stratum menu that you can go into. You can get the Stratum data, so it's going to go out there and provide the different views that are available for you. And you can scroll through all the different views that you have within your environment or that you have access to. And, as you can see, I've got a lot. If you can't find it, you can always search for the view that you're looking for based on a keyword or, whatever it is that you named your view. So if I want to add in like sheet number 4, if I want to add in another report, then I can go ahead and pick the specific view and click on insert, and it will insert the data for a sales analysis report into my view. So while it's working on that, as you can see, I've got this other dump that I did for the PBI comparative sales data that is already downloaded from my view. And as you can see, it contains all the data that I have within that view that's available for me to build visualizations off of the data that I dumped down from that particular view. This view runs a little longer, so no big deal. There it is. It's already done. So it dumped the data down from that view. As you can see, all the different columns now are available to me from that view. The descriptions, the dimension codes, the data itself, obviously the measures, the sales amount, the sales units, etc. that's all available now for me to build, whatever I want now from that data from that view that I just downloaded. Um, and that's kind of what I did with the um, some of these on sheet one here is basically I just built some visualizations. So I can close that out. And once I close out the connector menu, I get the native Excel menus for the pivot table because that's what I have highlighted. The heat map is based on the pivot table, and as you can see, it's all based on the data that I downloaded for that comparative sales view. It shows me the view that I'm using when it was last refreshed. And I can certainly refresh that on the fly if I wanted to as well. So there's some menus here you can go into. You can toggle the menu, and you can completely get rid of it if you wanted to as well. If I want to refresh the data, I can go ahead and click on the refresh Stratum data button. It will go out and refresh the data, and now it's indicating that my last refresh is today at this time frame. So now it's actually going out and getting that data. So basically, and I think it's refreshing the analysis report as well. So that'll take a little while. So that's the concept. And you can, dump down as many views as you want. And there's my refresh for the comparative sales view. And so now my data, my heat map is all based on the fresh data that I just refreshed as well. So you can also upload data to Stratum as well. If you wanted to perhaps download demand data or sales data, make some updates to it, and then upload it back into Stratum. There's a concept of uploading data into back into Stratum, and that's involves the data import component of Stratum, and you can kick that upload directly from here if you wanted to. So that's the concept with the Excel add-in. You can actually go out and get that. If you notice in the insert menu, there's get add-ins in Excel. So if you highlight insert and you go and you click on get add-ins, you can then search for the Excel add-in, and it'll bring up the Microsoft Store, and then I can go in and type in like Sylvan, and there it is. So I can then go ahead and add that in. You may not be able to do that unless you contact your IT department, of course. If you're in IT already, you should be able you may be able to do that yourself. So, but this is how you would get the add-in from the Microsoft Store. As you can see, it's rather easy to find. Once you add that in and load it in, then you would have that access to the Stratum menus at that point. So that's the Excel part, hooking up Excel directly to Stratum, dumping data down from those views. Pretty simple. And creating these different visuals and doing pivot tables, etc. Everything that Excel provides are now available to me now that I have my data directly from my Stratum environment. Power BI, switching gears a little bit to the Power BI interface. So here I've got now I've got the Power BI designer open. I've got a report that's already written here for some views that I've already imported, but you've got the same concept where you would go out and get data and then connect to your Stratum Power BI add-in. Same concept. It's going to bring up the views, once you provide the URL to Stratum, and then you would select the views. I brought down basically that same comparative sales view. I brought that into my Power BI environment, and I can right click that and refresh it if I want to. So part of the Power BI piece is, if I want to manually refresh the data, I can do that on the fly. And then also obviously once I connect to it, I get access to all the different measures and the different levels and their descriptions within that particular view. Um, that's basically what so some of these visualizations are built upon that. Or if I wanted to add another visualization, I could come in and, maybe make some room for a pie chart of some sort. If I click on the pie visualization, then it would then give me a little pie chart in the available space of the dashboard. The pie chart is now waiting for some data to populate. So if I want to maybe put in actual sales, and then it needs a dimension. So maybe, I could do product brand, or maybe, a division of some sort, or region. It's up to you what you want to populate here. If I select the region here, I can then see the East and the West region, etc. So I've just made a little visual there based on the East and West region dimension within that view. And if I highlight that visual, it then shows me, from the view, the data set, aka the view, what I've selected for that particular visual. If I want to make a change and say, well, I'd rather have product brand in there instead, I can make those changes here on the fly. Product category or product brand, as long as I find the right, field that I want to use. Obviously, it needs to be within your view. Now, if it's not in your view and you want it to be, go ahead and add it to your view. And it will then, you'll do a data refresh and it will then populate, as long as you save it to your view. So if you see something that's not here, it's probably not in your view either. And so you'll need to go back to the view, bring that measure in, or that level. And, once you have that available in your view, then you can come back here. I can right click on that particular view name there, and I can do a quick refresh on that. So now it's actually reaching out and doing a refresh. I don't know what happened there. That's obviously something that's probably wrong, configured incorrectly. I just got a brand new PC, so I'm still trying to figure some of this stuff out. So basically, that's the whole concept of building visualizations, using Power BI, whether it's Power BI or Excel. You can now just connect directly to Stratum by providing the URL and selecting the views that you want to bring into either tool. And then obviously you can just tap right into the views, other than, the old way, which would be to build the view, dump it down, copy and paste, that type of stuff. Just more clicks and steps that you would have to go through. Here's just way more streamlined. If I'm ready to publish, in Power BI, you can then publish up to the cloud. That makes it available to all the users that are able to get access to that folder that you publish it to. You can then also use this in your dashboarding. So if I wanted to incorporate a Power BI dashboard, I can come in and build or have one of my Power BI reports in a dashboard. So if I wanted to, for instance, if I go to my, and if you didn't know, we have dashboarding capabilities within some of the new versions. So if I go to my dashboards here, I can then see that I've got a Power BI dashboard that's built here. If I can sign into it and connect to it, here's what it's basically the same report, right? So I'm going to copy that URL. Actually, I'm going to right click and open that in a new tab, which gives me the URL to that dashboard. And then I can make that my home page within Viewer or within Stratum. So if I go to my application menu, I can then put that in as my global home page and save that. So now instead of our menu, you're getting a Power BI dashboard as the home page. Isn't that nifty? And another thing that we provide is the drill through button. So with Power BI, it's one thing we want to talk about, spend some time on. Power BI is great. Obviously, it does wonderful visualizations, but it kind of fails if you want to get a lot of detail or, you know, get to some detail. It's more difficult to provide that through a Power BI interface. So what we provide is a drill through button. And for instance, for my reps, like we can go through some scenarios here. For instance, Patrick Hurley, one of my top reps here in terms of the heat map here, I could see that the volumes are pretty big for both Patrick and Nicole. You know, so if I want to see Patrick's numbers beyond what's in this dashboard, I obviously can't get to it from the dashboard itself. So I have a drill through button that will take me to Stratum. That'll allow me to get to the detail for Patrick. Patrick's highlighted here. So once I highlight Patrick and click on the drill through button, it'll then take me to the view for Patrick's details. So as you can see, it's run the view for me, and it's got Patrick in the filter area. So it's only showing me Patrick's numbers. And now I can go to Patrick's products and I can see what his products are off the bat. And it's a lot of detail, right? Something that you may not want to push to Power BI because as you can see, it's like 74 rows of detail here. Or if you had your order, or maybe if you want to see an invoice level, you certainly don't want to use that in your Power BI interface. It'll just bog things down. So the drill, as you can see, the Stratum drill through button is a wonderful feature that gets you around this problem of bringing in too much data into the Power BI, which can bog things down, make the report slow, and it's just unpleasant to work with. So I can take, once I close that one down, I can come back to the interface and select Nicole and see Nicole, as you can see, she's looks like she's got some performance issues this year versus last. So let's take a look at Nicole's numbers. And it does the same thing. It's going to run the same view. It's going to filter now instead of on the other rep, it's now filtering on Nicole. And, her view is singing a different story here. It's telling me a different story. And that is, she's down. She's basically not performing as well as she did prior. And that allows me to take further analysis within Stratum. Now I can see maybe at the product level what she's struggling with. And it seems to be across the board. There are some areas of growth there, but it's pretty bleak. So, obviously I have something to talk to Nicole about to see what's going on. But as you can see, you can then put, I could do the same thing here. The users would then hit this dashboard. They would then highlight Patrick Hurley. So now I'm actually doing the same thing, except I'm using the report that has been published to the cloud and allows me to collaborate. So anyone who can have access to Stratum, well, guess what? They're going to get access to this homepage, and they're going to have access to this wonderful looking Power BI report that's derived from Stratum data, and it gets refreshed automatically. So I could do the same. I could play the same game here if I wanted to highlight Eleanor, for instance, and see what obviously her numbers are not as big. Her heat map areas isn't as big. So I can then drill Eleanor's numbers, and then it's a different dashboard. So it actually takes me to a bit of a different view, but the concept is the same. There's Eleanor's numbers. Then I can drill her numbers to product, and I can see, more detail for Eleanor. And once I close that down, maybe I select Mike, and again, I click on the drill through button, and now I'm looking at Mike's numbers. So it's slick, man. It is nice. It navigates well, and it's very visual, and users tend to gravitate towards that, and it makes it easier for them. From the dashboard, I can see Mike's numbers from and this is all data. These are cards and charts that are all data coming from Stratum, from the Power BI report that I built using the Stratum interface. So that's the wonderful things you can do. I mean, as you can see, you can incorporate these dashboards immediately into your Stratum environment as a home page. Once I go to home, it then populates, as you can see, right away, and it looks fantastic. So if you want to pursue this, let me know. You might already be licensed for it, and you may not know it. So these are licensable features. And if you don't know, if you're not sure about it, contact me. I can always very easily look up your license and let you know what's going on and see if you have access to it. And if not, we can talk about how you can get access to it and get you licensed for it so that you can enjoy some of these benefits.